Millionaire was shocked when he saw his childhood love cleaning the floor of his company. That morning, the man who owned the building was not supposed to be there. Ethan Caldwell stepped through the glass doors of his own headquarters with the calm confidence of a man who had built everything from nothing, thinking about numbers, investors, and a new product launch, never imagining that before he reached the elevator, his entire past would be waiting on the floor in front of him. The marble hallway gleamed under the lights as employees rushed past in tailored suits, clutching laptops and coffee cups, barely noticing the woman kneeling near the entrance with a bucket and worn yellow gloves. To them, she was part of the background. To him, she was about to become the center of his universe all over again. At first, Ethan only saw movement: a hand wringing out a soaked mop, a thin wrist, a familiar way of tucking a loose strand of hair behind an ear. He slowed down without knowing why. His assistant kept talking, listing meetings and updates, but the sound faded as something inside him tightened, a strange pull backward in time. The woman adjusted her weight, leaning forward to scrub at a scuff on the floor. Her shoulders were narrower than he remembered, her back slightly curved with exhaustion, but the small, precise movements of her fingers were the same hands that once sketched his future on torn notebook paper under an old tree. Ethan's steps stopped completely. People behind him shifted and muttered, forced to walk around their CEO as he stared at a janitor crouched on the ground like he was seeing a ghost. The woman sensed the pause. She lifted her face for just a second, just long enough to check if she was in someone's way. That second was all it took. 16 years collapsed in on themselves. The hallway, the rushing staff, the polished walls, everything fell away. He saw a 13-year-old girl with ink on her fingers and quiet eyes, sitting beside him near a river, listening to his wild promises. He saw the empty bedroom years later, the way his chest had felt like it was splitting open when he realized she was gone. Now that same girl, older, thinner, with dark circles beneath her eyes, was kneeling on the spotless floor of his empire, dressed in a faded uniform with a plastic badge clipped to her shirt. Lily Warren. The name slammed into him like a physical hit. His mouth went dry. His assistant asked if he was all right, but Ethan barely heard him. He took a small step forward. The woman's eyes widened. Recognition flared there, shock, disbelief, and something that looked a lot like fear. Her fingers trembled around the handle of the bucket. For a heartbeat, neither of them moved. 16 years of silence stared back at him. She looked away first. Her hand slipped. The bucket tipped over, crashing against the floor. Soapy water poured out in a rush, spreading across the tiles, splashing against Ethan's shoes. Gasps and annoyed sighs rose from nearby staff as people stepped back to avoid the mess. "I'm so sorry," she blurted, scrambling to set the bucket upright, her voice soft and hoarse, as if she hadn't spoken much that day. Even in that single sentence, he heard her. He heard the girl who used to whisper stories about running away from shouting in the next room, the one who listened quietly while he talked about building a better life. His chest tightened. Lily. Her name slipped out of him before he could stop it, not as a question, but as a truth his soul already knew. She froze. Very slowly, she looked up again, as if hoping she had misheard. Her eyes locked on his. This time, she couldn't pretend not to know him. "Ethan?" she breathed, barely audible. Around them, the hallway buzzed and echoed, but it felt like the world had shrunk to the space between two people who should have never seen each other like this. He was in an expensive suit, the owner of everything above and around them. She was on her knees in a cleaning uniform, water seeping into the edges of her shoes. If you love emotional, real-life-inspired love stories about second chances, you're in the right place. Before the story continues, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is right now. And if you're new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss more stories like this. Ethan's assistant stepped forward, frowning at the spreading puddle. "Sir, we're going to be late for. Get someone to handle this mess." A middle manager snapped at Lily from across the hall. His name tag read Harper, Operations Manager. "You're blocking the entrance. Move to the side." Lily jolted, immediately trying to push the water back toward the bucket with the mop. "I'm sorry. It was my mistake. I'll clean it up right away," she said quickly, not daring to look at Ethan again. The manager strode closer, clearly annoyed. "This is the third time this week you're in the wrong place at the wrong time," he muttered. "Maybe you should focus less on staring at people walking in and more on doing your job." Ethan's gaze snapped to him. "Stop talking," he said, calm but sharp enough to cut. The manager froze, color draining from his face as he realized exactly who was standing in front of him. "Mr. Caldwell, I didn't see you there," he stammered. "We have a schedule, sir, and the lobby." "The lobby can wait," Ethan said. His voice was still even, but there was a gravity in it that made everyone nearby fall silent. He looked back at Lily. She had gone very still, her hands gripping the mop handle so tightly her knuckles had turned white. He could see the way her breathing had changed, shallow and quick, like she was preparing to bolt. He knew that look. He had seen it in her eyes when police cars used to drive slowly past her house. He had seen it on the night he stood outside her dark bedroom window and realized she was gone. "Leave the water," he said quietly. The manager blinked. "Sir, I said, leave it," Ethan repeated, not taking his eyes off Lily. "Get someone else to handle it. I need to speak with her." The assistant stepped in, confused. "Her, sir?" "Yes, her." There was no hesitation now. The people nearest them exchanged glances, uncertain why their usually efficient, distant CEO was stopping the morning over a janitor. Lily swallowed. I have to finish this area before 9, she said softly. Her voice shook. "We have a checklist, and if I don't..." "I own the checklist," Ethan replied, still calm, but more gentle now. "You're not going to get in trouble for coming with me." Her eyes darted to the manager, then to the assistant, then to the open lobby doors as if calculating the fastest way to escape all of this. He watched her make the exact same tiny, cautious movements he remembered from years ago when she used to listen at her front door to check if the shouting had stopped. "Harper," Ethan said without looking away from her. "Yes, sir?" the manager answered quickly. "Get someone to put up a wet floor sign and handle the rest of the cleanup. If I hear that she has been written up or punished for this, you and I will have a very serious conversation." Harper's mouth opened and closed once. "Yes, Mr. Caldwell, of course." Ethan exhaled slowly. He softened his stance, just a little, so he didn't look like a CEO giving an order, but a man trying not to scare someone who had already been frightened enough in life. "Lily," he said again, quieter now. "Please, come with me for a minute." She hesitated, eyes flicking to the floor, then to the bucket, then back to him. Finally, she nodded once, almost imperceptibly. "Just a minute," she whispered. She set the mop aside, peeled off the damp gloves, and wiped her hands on her uniform, as if trying to erase the fact that she had been on her knees in front of him a moment ago. Every step she took toward him felt like it stretched across 16 years. He led the way toward a nearby conference room with glass walls. People glanced up as they passed, surprised to see their CEO walking side by side with a cleaner, but no one said anything. Inside the small room, Ethan closed the door gently and lowered the blinds halfway, cutting off some of the outside stairs while still letting in light. The room smelled faintly of coffee and dry marker ink. A long table stood between them. Neither of them sat down at first. For a moment, they simply looked at each other. The last time he had seen her, they had been teenagers with cheap shoes and big dreams, standing by a river at dusk, both convinced life was finally going to get better. Now she was standing in his building, in a uniform that looked one size too big, eyes tired, shoulders slightly hunched, like someone who had learned to make herself smaller to avoid trouble. He hated it. Not her. The way the world had clearly treated her. "How long have you been working here?" he asked, gently. Lily bit her lip. "A few months," she said. Her voice carried the careful tone of someone used to giving only the safest possible amount of information. "Night shifts. Sometimes mornings, if someone calls in sick." "You clean this floor often?" She nodded. "I clean all the common areas on rotation." A faint, almost embarrassed smile tugged at her mouth. "Your staff walk fast. They don't look down much." The comment wasn't bitter, just quietly observant. He winced inside. "I should have known you were here," he said. "You shouldn't have been invisible in my own building." She shook her head quickly. "No, that's not on you. It's just a job." He noticed how she said it, like she was trying to make it sound small on purpose. "Why didn't you tell anyone who you were?" he asked. "Someone would have sent you straight to me." A flicker of panic flashed across her face. "That's exactly why I didn't," she replied, a little too quickly. She took a breath, steadied herself, then looked down at her hands. "They said the owner was some important man with no time. You don't bother people like that with old stories." The way she said old stories made his chest ache. "Old stories," he repeated softly. "Is that what you think we were?" She finally looked up at him fully this time. Her eyes were older, but the way they shone when she was trying not to cry hadn't changed. "We were kids, Ethan," she said. The sound of his name in her mouth again felt like a knife and a balm at the same time. "You left. I left. Life happened. People grow up. People don't just vanish into thin air," he said, more sharply than he intended. He saw her flinch and immediately regretted the tone. "Lily, I looked for you," he added, softer. "For years. I asked everyone in town. No one could tell me anything." Her jaw tightened. "That's because no one really knew anything," she said quietly. He wanted to ask 1,000 questions at once. "Where did you go? Who were you with? Did someone hurt you? Why are you here now, of all places?" Instead, he forced himself to breathe and take a step back emotionally. Pushing too hard could make her retreat completely. She folded her arms loosely over her chest, like someone holding themselves together. "How did you even recognize me?" she asked, trying to sound casual but failing. "I don't look like I used to." He studied her face, the slightly sharper lines, the fading scar near her eyebrow he hadn't noticed before. Her hair was pulled back in a simple, practical style, but a few loose strands framed her face the same way they used to when they were teenagers. "You scratch your wrist when you're nervous," he said. Her eyes widened. He nodded at her left hand. "You've done that since we were 12. You still do it now." She glanced down at her wrist, realizing he was right. Her fingers were resting exactly where they always had when she was anxious. A small, disbelieving laugh escaped her, followed quickly by a tremor in her voice. "You remember that?" "I remember everything," he said. He almost reached across the table, but stopped himself. He had no idea what she had been through. Touch could be more threat than comfort now. Instead, he walked slowly to one of the chairs and sat down, making the moment feel less like an interrogation. He gestured for her to sit too. She hesitated, then lowered herself into a chair opposite him, back straight, hands folded in her lap. The room hummed quietly with the sound of the building's air system. "You disappeared right after we talked about leaving town together," he said, carefully. "You promised you'd come to the bus stop the night after your birthday. I waited." She closed her eyes briefly, pain flickering over her features. "I know," she whispered. "I'm sorry." She said it like an apology she had been carrying for 16 years. If you've ever lost someone you thought you'd never see again, only to run into them in the most unexpected place, you know this kind of moment hits different. If this story is already stirring something in you, tap the like button. It helps more people find stories like this. Lily opened her eyes again, steadying herself. "I didn't leave because of you," she said. "I need you to know that first. I didn't run away from you." "Then why?" he asked softly. "What happened, Lily?" She looked past him, at a blank spot on the wall, as if replaying a different world there. "My mother got worse," she said. "She started bringing people home who were not safe. There were nights I locked myself in my room and pushed the dresser against the door. One of those nights, I realized if I didn't leave soon, I was going to end up like her, or worse." Her voice stayed low, but her hands twisted together in her lap. "I thought I had time to talk to you," she continued. "I meant to, but everything moved too fast. An aunt I barely knew called. She said she had a room. Said I could start over. She was leaving town the next morning. There wasn't going to be another chance." "So you just left?" The hurt in his voice slipped out again before he could filter it. She flinched. "I packed what I could in one bag," she said. "Mum was passed out. If I had woken her, she might have stopped me. I stood at my bedroom window and looked toward the river. I thought about our tree, about the drawing I gave you, and I knew, if I went to see you, I might lose my nerve and stay." She swallowed hard. "I couldn't risk that." He leaned back, absorbing it, feeling a different kind of ache now. "So you left to save yourself," he said quietly. She let out a breath that sounded halfway between a laugh and a sob. "Yeah, you once told me to stop waiting for someone to rescue me. So, I tried." He remembered saying that. He remembered the anger in his own voice when he had talked about how unfair her home life was, how no one stepped in. He had wanted to be the one to fix everything. Now he saw what it had cost her just to take one step out the door. "Why didn't you call later?" he asked, more gently now. "All right. Send anything?" Lily stared at the table. "For a while, I told myself I would," she said, "but then days turned into months. The place I went to wasn't what I thought it would be. My aunt, she had her own problems. She needed someone to pay bills, run errands, handle things she didn't want to handle. I wasn't a guest. I was useful." Her mouth tightened on the last word. "I didn't have my own phone at first, didn't have privacy, didn't even know your new address when you left for university. By the time I could have tried to find you, you were already gone. In my head, anyway." She forced herself to meet his gaze. "You were meant for more than staying in that town looking for a girl who couldn't even keep her own life together." Something inside him snapped at that. "Don't say that," he said, sharper than before. "You don't get to decide what I would have chosen. You don't get to erase how much you mattered just because life went wrong." Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them back, almost angrily. "You turned into everything you said you would," she whispered. "You built this company. You got out. You changed your story. Me showing up again now, looking like this." She gestured vaguely at her uniform. "It's not part of the dream you talked about under that tree. You weren't supposed to see me like this." He shook his head slowly. "The dream was never just the money or the building, Lily. It was getting both of us out." Silence settled between them. Outside the room, muted footsteps passed by, unaware that 16 years of regret and survival were being unpacked on the other side of the door. She looked away again, chasing a safer topic. "How did you end up here?" she asked. "In this city? With all of this?" He could have given her the short, polished answer he gave in interviews, but something about her presence stripped away the practiced version of his story. "After you disappeared, I stopped sleeping," he said. He spoke slowly, choosing each word. "I threw everything into leaving. Scholarships, side jobs, anything to get out of that town. I told myself if I became important enough, had enough resources, I could find you, or at least make sure no one I cared about ever had to live the way we did." He glanced at his hands. "You know how I used to spend hours taking apart broken electronics?" She managed a small nod. "You used to fix things even when they were beyond saving," she said softly. He smiled faintly. "I started doing that with software instead. Built a small app in college that helped small repair shops track parts and orders. It exploded more than I ever expected. Investors came. The company grew. Somewhere along the way, it turned into all of this." He gestured vaguely toward the window, toward the city skyline beyond. "People clapped when I talked about scaling and innovation," he added. "But every time I hit a new milestone, I'd go home, look at that drawing you gave me, and feel like I'd missed the one promise that mattered." Her breath caught. "You kept it." "Of course I did," he said. "You drew both of us under that tree, remember? You made my hair look ridiculous." A tiny, unexpected laugh escaped her. "It was accurate," she said. His own laugh joined hers, soft but real. For a brief moment, the tired janitor and the polished CEO disappeared, leaving behind only two kids who used to share snacks and bruised hearts by a river. If you've ever wondered what would happen if the one who got away suddenly appeared in your life again, in the most unexpected way, tell me in the comments how you think you'd react. Would you walk away or sit down and listen? The laughter faded, but the echo of it left something gentler between them. Lily's shoulders relaxed a fraction. "Why did you come in without warning today?" she asked. "Don't you usually have people tell everyone when you're visiting?" He shrugged slightly. "Sometimes I like to see the place as it really is," he said. "No one pretends if they don't know I'm coming." Her mouth tipped up on one side. "So, I was your accident of the day?" He shook his head. "No," he replied quietly. "You were the only thing today that felt not like an accident at all." She dipped her head, cheeks flushing faintly, but he also saw a flicker of fear return. He couldn't ignore it. "Lily," he said carefully, "when I saw you in that hallway, you didn't just look surprised. You looked scared. Not just because of me. Because someone might see us talking." Her fingers tightened together in her lap. "It's complicated," she said. "That's not an answer," he replied gently. "It's the only one I can give right now," she countered. He resisted the urge to press harder. "Does it have anything to do with why you ended up here?" he asked. "Cleaning floors in a building with my name on it, instead of doing something with the art you used to love?" She shrugged one shoulder, a small, defensive move. "Art doesn't pay urgent bills," she said. "Not when you're alone and starting from below zero. This job is simple. It's quiet. No one asks questions. That's useful." There was that word again. Useful. He leaned forward slightly, elbows on the table. "What if I wanted to ask questions?" he said. "What if I'm not okay with the idea that you're scrubbing floors in the place I built while pretending we never existed?" Her eyes flashed with something sharp. "You don't get to feel guilty just because you saw me with a mop, Ethan," she said, a hint of steel entering her tone. "I'm not your penance." "Is that what you think this is?" he asked. "That I'm trying to fix my conscience?" "Aren't you?" He shook his head. "I'm trying to fix the part where the girl I promised to come back for disappeared into a life where she thinks she's not allowed to want more than this." She stared at him, breathing a little faster now. "I'm allowed to want whatever I can handle without everything falling apart," she said. "Big dreams come with big risks. I've already used up more chances than most people get." "You don't know that," he replied. She gave a small, weary smile. "That's the difference between us," she said softly. "You always believed the world would make room for you if you pushed hard enough. I learned early that sometimes the world just doesn't." Her words landed heavily, but he refused to accept them as final. "Maybe it didn't back then," he said, "but this building is my world now, and I decide who gets to be invisible in it." She opened her mouth to respond, but a knock on the glass interrupted them. Harper, the manager, hovered awkwardly outside the room, clearly torn between fear of barging in and fear of ignoring his boss. Ethan stood and walked to the door, cracking it open. "Yes?" "Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Caldwell," Harper said, forcing a professional smile. "The board is waiting in the main conference room. We moved the meeting back 10 minutes, but they just arrived." Ethan checked his watch, then glanced at Lily. Her posture had shifted again, reverting to the quiet, small presence she had adopted when he first saw her. He made a decision. "Start without me," he told Harper. "I'll join in a few minutes." Harper blinked. "Sir, they specifically requested." "I'm aware of what they requested," Ethan said. "This takes priority. Tell them I was delayed." Harper's eyes flicked briefly to Lily, then back to Ethan, but he knew better than to push. "Yes, sir," he said, retreating. Ethan closed the door again and returned to his seat. Lily stared at him like he had just done something reckless. "You can't keep them waiting," she protested. "They're more important than this." "No," he said simply. "They're not." She shook her head, clearly uncomfortable with the idea that he had chosen her over a room full of powerful people. "This is exactly why I didn't want anyone to know I knew you," she murmured. "People don't like it when janitors suddenly become the center of attention. It makes them ask questions, and I can't afford any more questions in my life." The way she said that sent a quiet chill through him. He leaned back, softening his tone further. "Okay," he said. "No more questions. For now." She looked relieved and frustrated at the same time. "But I'm not done talking to you," he added. Her eyes lifted slowly. "Ethan, I'm not asking you to trust me with everything today," he said. "I know I don't get to demand that after 16 years. But I am asking for one thing." She waited, wary. "Don't disappear again," he said. "Not without giving me a chance to understand. If you need to walk away after that, fine. But don't vanish without a word." Silence stretched between them. She studied his face, searching for something. "You still make promises like they cost nothing," she said, a faint tremor in her voice. "They cost me everything," he replied. "That's why I'm careful with them now." The clock on the wall ticked softly. Finally, she nodded once. "I have to finish my shift," she said. "I'll be in the East Wing after lunch." The staff corridor on level 3. It's quiet there. If you still want to talk. I do, he said immediately. She stood slowly, smoothing her uniform again, as if putting her armor back on. He didn't move to open the door yet. Lily? She paused. Yes. It was never just an old story to me, he said. Not then, not now. Her throat worked as she swallowed. I don't know if I can afford to believe that, she whispered. Not yet, he nodded. I'll wait, he said. You're late for your important meeting, she added. A small attempt at lightness. Let them wait, he said again. This time, she almost smiled. Some things really haven't changed, she murmured. He opened the door and stepped aside to let her go first. As she walked out, she kept her gaze on the floor, blending back into the flow of staff in the hallway. But to him, the entire building had shifted. For 16 years, the past had been a weight he carried alone. Now it was walking his corridors in a faded uniform, trying to stay unseen. He had built this empire to make sure no one he loved would ever slip away again. Now the girl who had shattered that promise was pushing a cleaning cart down his hallway, still running from something he didn't yet understand. And the real story was only just beginning. If this first part of Ethan and Lily's story is already pulling you in, tell me in the comments which moment hit you the hardest so far. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you want to see how their past, their secrets, and their second chance unfold in the next chapters. Ethan watched Lily push the cleaning cart down the corridor until the crowd of employees swallowed her up. He stood there a moment longer, hand still resting on the conference room door handle, as if his body hadn't caught up with what his mind already knew. Lily Warren was here, not in a memory, not in a sketch. Here, in his building, cleaning his floors. He drew in a slow breath, forcing his shoulders to relax. Then he turned toward the main conference room. By the time he stepped in, the board was already seated, faces expectant, screens glowing with charts and projections. A few heads turned as he entered, some eyes flicking briefly toward the clock. Apologies for the delay, Ethan said, moving to the head of the table. He spoke evenly, the same way he always did in these rooms. But inside, his thoughts were nowhere near the quarterly numbers. He caught fragments of the presentation: market share, new partnerships, forecast growth. He had fought for all of it. Yet today, it felt strangely distant. When someone asked for his opinion on a proposed expansion, he gave a clear, rational answer, his brain operating on autopilot. But in the small pause that followed, his mind replayed the way Lily had held her wrist when she was nervous, the way her voice had broken on the word, sorry. By the end of the meeting, he realized he couldn't remember half of what had been said. What he did remember was the time. Level 3, East Wing, after lunch. As soon as the conference room emptied, his assistant, Daniel, hovered by the door with a tablet in hand. Sir, the investors from Toronto are expecting a call in 30 minutes, Daniel said. And you have a product review with the development team at 2. Move the development review to later this afternoon, Ethan replied, and push the Toronto call back by 15 minutes. Tell them something came up internally that needed my attention. Daniel opened his mouth to question, then shut it. He had learned, over the years, when not to press. Yes, Mr. Caldwell, he said. Anything else you need? Ethan considered for a second. Yes. Find out how long that new cleaning staff member has been working here. Lily Warren. Daniel blinked. His expression barely changed, but Ethan knew him well enough to notice the subtle surprise. I'll check with facilities, Daniel said. Discreetly, Ethan added. I don't want anyone making a show out of it. Understood. As Daniel left, Ethan walked to his office for a moment of quiet before heading to level 3. The space was sleek and modern, floor-to-ceiling windows opening onto the city. On one corner of his desk sat the framed drawing Lily had given him when they were 13. 2 kids under an old tree, lying on their backs, the sky above them filled with stars she had carefully dotted in. He picked it up. The pencil lines were slightly faded now, the paper a little yellowed with time. She had exaggerated his messy hair and drawn herself with a small smile, and a shaded shadow curled at her feet like something she couldn't quite shake. As a teenager, he had thought it looked dramatic. Now, he understood it was probably the most honest thing she had ever put on paper. He traced the edge of the glass with his thumb. He thought of how she had said she went to live with an aunt and ended up being useful. He thought of the panic that had flashed in her eyes when he mentioned people asking questions. Something wasn't right. This wasn't just about an old promise or a lost first love. This was about a woman who had learned to survive by disappearing into corners. He set the frame back down carefully. Then he glanced at the clock. It was nearly time. He left his office and headed for the elevators, pressing the button for level 3. As the doors closed, he caught his reflection in the mirrored panel. For a moment, he almost didn't recognize himself. Not the man the magazines wrote about, confident and composed, but the boy who used to scrape together spare change to buy 2 chocolate bars so Lily wouldn't have to pretend she wasn't hungry. When the doors opened on level 3, the energy shifted. The east wing was quieter than the buzzing upper floors. Here, the walls were more practical, lined with storage rooms, staff lockers, and service corridors that kept the building running without ever drawing attention. This was where the invisible work happened. He walked slowly down the hallway, scanning for the cart she had mentioned. Cleaning supplies, buckets, a familiar faded color of uniform turning the corner. He saw her near a vending machine tucked into an alcove, refilling a set of paper towel dispensers. She hadn't noticed him yet. She was humming under her breath, a tune he didn't recognize at first. Then it clicked. It was the same melody she used to hum while drawing under the tree when words were too heavy. He stopped a few feet away, letting her finish what she was doing. Only when she turned to wheel the cart toward the staff bathrooms did she see him. The cart jerked slightly as she pulled it to a halt. "You came," she said quietly. Her tone was flat, as if she had half expected him to forget. "I said I would," he replied. "Yeah," she murmured. "You always said that." There was no accusation in it, just tired realism. "Is it okay if we talk here?" he asked. "It's quieter than upstairs." She glanced around the corridor. A staff door opened at the far end. 2 employees in maintenance uniforms stepped out, chatting, then turned the other way and disappeared. She nodded. "As long as I look like I'm working if someone walks by," she said. "I can't afford to lose this job." "You won't," he said. "I told you. She cut him off gently. "You don't control everything, Ethan," she said. "You may own the company, but people still find ways to twist things." He grudgingly accepted the point. "Then we'll talk and keep it low profile," he said. "Deal?" She gave a small nod. "Deal." He moved to the side, leaning lightly against the wall opposite her cart, giving her space. "You said last time that you can't handle more questions in your life," he began. "I'll try not to overload you. But there are some things I have to understand." She picked up a cloth and began to wipe the metal surface of the vending machine, giving her hands something to do. "Ask," she said. Her voice shook slightly, but she kept wiping. "You've been here a few months," he said. "Before that, where were you?" She paused, cloth pressed flat against the metal. "A few places," she said. "You don't want the full list." "I do," he replied softly. "Maybe not today, but eventually." She closed her eyes briefly, then opened them again. "For the last couple of years, I've been in this city," she said. "I took whatever work I could find. Cleaning mostly. Office buildings. Some apartments. Sometimes night shifts at a warehouse." "Alone?" he asked. She hesitated. "Mostly," she said. "Mostly isn't all," he pointed out. Her jaw tightened. "There's someone," she admitted. "Not the kind of someone you're thinking. Not a boyfriend. Not a husband. Just someone who thinks I owe them more than I ever did." His fingers curled slightly at his sides. "Who?" "I'm not saying his name," she replied quickly. "Names give people weight. He doesn't need any more than he already has." "Is he the reason you looked afraid in the lobby?" Ethan asked. She stopped wiping and stared at the reflection of her own face in the vending machine glass. "You saw that," she said. "I see more than you think," he answered. A humorless smile touched her lips. "Same as always," she murmured. "When we were kids, you used to notice every bruise I tried to hide. And you used to pretend you fell off your bike," he said. "At night. In the kitchen." She flinched. They both went quiet for a moment. "After I left town, things didn't get magically better," she said eventually. "My aunt kept a roof over my head, but there were strings, favors, debts. She started borrowing money, then using my name on things. When she couldn't pay back what she owed, someone else stepped in, a man who liked feeling important. He paid off one problem and claimed both of us as his solution. She shifted her weight, cloth twisting in her hands. I was young, she continued. Grateful. I thought he was protecting us. He helped me find my first job in the city, said I could stay in a small place he controlled until I got on my feet. What I didn't realize was that getting on my feet was never part of his plan. Ethan felt a slow burn in his chest. How does he control you now? He asked. She gave a small, resigned laugh. Money and fear, she said. The same two tools that run most of the world, right? I don't run my world that way, he replied. She glanced at him. Then you're one of the rare ones. Her expression softened a little. I'm not saying he hits me, if that's what you're picturing. He doesn't need to. He signs the lease on the place I live in. He knows where my aunt is. He keeps track of what I earn and what I spend. If I don't hand over a contribution every month, he reminds me who put my name on certain papers that could cause trouble if they ever came to light. That's blackmail, Ethan said, voice tight. She shrugged one shoulder. In practice, yes. On paper, it's just helping family and sharing costs. People like him are very careful. Is he the one who picked this job for you? She nodded. He has a contact in the cleaning contractor the company uses. He heard they needed someone reliable for night shifts in a good building. Good building was his phrase, not mine. High pay compared to the last place. He liked the idea. Because he gets a cut, Ethan said. Because it keeps me working predictable hours, she corrected. He likes to know where I am. If I suddenly start changing jobs or schedules, he starts asking why. He exhaled slowly, fighting the urge to immediately start making phone calls. Does he know you're here specifically? In my company? Yes, she said. He was pretty pleased about it, actually. Said it was good for me to see what real success looks like. Said maybe it would motivate me to work harder. Her voice went dry on the last words. And when he sees you talking to me? Ethan asked. Her hand tightened again. He hasn't seen that. Yet. And I was hoping to keep it that way. Too late for that, Ethan said quietly. I saw him in the lobby earlier. Old car, hard eyes. He didn't like the look of me near you. Her face went pale. He saw you? From a distance, Ethan said. I don't think he recognized me as anything more than a well-dressed stranger, but he definitely noticed me watching. Lily pressed the cloth against the vending machine, as if bracing herself. That's not good, she whispered. He gets suspicious. Fast. Suspicious of what? Ethan asked. Of me remembering that I have choices, she said quietly. The simple honesty of that sentence made his heart twist. Lily, he said slowly, you said you can't afford questions. I get that, but you also can't keep living like this. Not when there are better options. Better options come with strings too, she said. Your strings might be softer, but they're still strings. He frowned. What does that mean? It means I know how this looks, she said. Girl from nowhere, cleaning the floors, suddenly noticed by the man at the top. People talk. They invent reasons. They'll think I'm using you or you're using me. Either way, it doesn't end clean. He understood the implication, and he didn't like how true it was. Office gossip is not my priority, he said. Your safety is. You don't know me anymore, she replied softly. How do you know what my priority is? He paused. You're right, he said. I don't know everything about who you've become, but I know who you were. And I refuse to believe that girl disappeared completely. A flicker of something passed over her face, pain, hope, fear tangled together. You talk like the world bends when you decide something, she said. That must be a nice feeling. It's not about the world, he said. It's about my world, this company, this building, the space you're standing in. Here, I do get a say. She looked down at the company logo on the vending machine, at the polished floor she had cleaned earlier. Why does it matter so much to you? She asked slowly. You have thousands of employees, hundreds of contracts. Why is one cleaner suddenly worth missing board meetings for? Because she isn't just one cleaner, he replied. She's the person I promised I wouldn't leave behind. And for 16 years, I've been living with the feeling that I failed that promise. Her eyes shone, but she kept her chin up. "You didn't fail it," she said. "I broke it. I left. I chose to go without telling you. If there's any blame, it's mine." He shook his head. "No, you chose to survive. You chose to step out of a house that was destroying you. I'm not going to punish you for that." For the first time, she wasn't quick with an argument. She just stood there, breathing, letting the words sink in. "If you've ever blamed yourself for someone else's choices or carried guilt for something you couldn't control, let me know in the comments." The narrator's voice would say here in your video, "You're not alone, and sometimes seeing it from another angle changes everything." A door at the far end of the corridor opened. A maintenance worker pushed out a trash bin, glanced down the hall, nodded politely to Lily, and kept moving. He gave Ethan a slightly longer look, surprised to see the CEO in this quieter wing, but didn't linger. When the door clicked shut again, the silence settled back. "Do you want to leave this job?" Ethan asked. It was a simple question, but it landed like a weight between them. Lily looked at her cart, at the worn wheels and stained rags, the plastic bottles with handwritten labels. "I don't have the luxury of wanting things," she said. "Either the job pays and doesn't put me in danger, or it doesn't. That's the scale I use these days." "Does this job put you in danger?" he asked. "In itself? No," she said. "In connection with the man who keeps track of my hours and pay? Potentially. Because he controls your housing and your aunt? Yes." "What if he didn't?" Ethan asked quietly. She went very still. "That sounds like the beginning of a wish," she said. "And wishes are expensive." "I'm not talking about magic," he said. "I'm talking about legal help. People whose entire job is to untangle situations like yours. We have resources. We can put distance between you and him." Her laugh was short and humorless. You, she corrected. "Not me. People like me don't usually end up with lawyers who side with them. We end up signing things we don't understand because someone says it'll make the problem go away." He didn't argue. She wasn't wrong. "I can change that," he said instead. "Not for the whole world, but for you. And there it is," she said softly. "The part that scares me." He frowned. "What part?" "The part where you talk like you're responsible for me," she replied. "You were my friend. You were more than that. Once. But that was a long time ago. I'm not a project you failed to complete. I'm a person who made choices and lived with them." He felt the words like a check on his own instincts. She was right to call it out. "Okay," he said slowly. "You're right. You're not a project. You're not a broken promise I get to fix so I can sleep better. So, let me rephrase." He straightened slightly. "If you decide you want help," he said, careful with each word, "I can provide it. Not as a debt, not as pity, not as some kind of charity." He almost used a phrase he knew you don't want in your scripts, then stopped himself before it formed. "Think of it like this," he continued. "When we were kids, you listened to me talk about a future that sounded impossible. You gave me a place to say those dreams out loud without being laughed at. You don't know how much that mattered. You were there at the start of all of this. If there's any way I can make your life easier now, I'd consider that paying back an old debt I owe you." She blinked, genuinely thrown. "You don't owe me anything," she said. "I do," he said quietly. "At the very least, I owe you honesty. And the truth is, I don't want to watch you scrub my floors while pretending we're strangers." The vending machine hummed softly between them. Lily let out a long breath. "I don't know what to say to that," she admitted. "Then don't," he said. "Not yet. Just don't shut the door completely. Let the possibility sit there for a while." She chewed the inside of her cheek slowly, a habit he remembered from exams in school. Finally, she nodded once. "I can do that," she said. "Leave the possibility sitting in the corner for a bit." A faint, almost shy smile ghosted across her lips. "Just don't expect me to suddenly move into some glass apartment and start painting the skyline," she added. He smiled too, imagining it despite himself. "I'm not going to script your life," he said. "Just offer you more than one version of it." She picked up the mop, leaning against the wall. "I should finish this floor," she said. "If my supervisor comes by and sees me standing here talking." "He can speak to me," Ethan said. "That makes it worse," she replied. You don't know how much resentment that creates when someone like you suddenly pays attention to someone like me. They'll decide I have special treatment, that I skipped some invisible line they've been standing in for years. He hadn't considered that angle, and he respected her for pointing it out. Then how do we do this? He asked. How do we keep talking without putting a target on your back? She thought for a moment, then glanced up at the ceiling. The stairwells, she said. People use the elevators. The back stairwells are mostly empty except for a few health-conscious interns. He raised an eyebrow. You've mapped out the quiet spaces. It's part of staying unnoticed, she said. Her tone was matter-of-fact, not proud. There's a service stairwell near the loading bay on the ground level. If you walk there around the end of my shift, no one will think twice. You'll just look like you're heading to your car through the back exit. He nodded slowly. And you'll just look like you're clocking out? Exactly. When's the end of your shift? Tonight, 10, she said. You're still here that late? Night shifts pay more, she said simply. He glanced at his schedule in his mind. He often stayed late anyway. I'll be there, he said. She studied his face, as if checking for any hint of insincerity. Okay, she said at last. 10 o'clock, service stairwell by the loading bay. If you change your mind, he started. You'll survive, she finished for him. He smiled faintly. I wasn't going to say that, he said. I was going to say, if you change your mind, I'll try not to take it personally, but I will worry. She looked down at the floor she had just finished cleaning. You've had 16 years to worry, she said quietly. Another day won't kill you. Then, without waiting for an answer, she turned and pushed her cart farther down the corridor, the wheels squeaking softly. He watched her go until she turned a corner and disappeared. If this story feels like watching two lives that were never supposed to meet again slowly collide, let me know in the comments. Would you walk away to protect your peace, or stay and face the past like Lily is about to do? Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see where this fragile second chance leads. Back in his office, the city looked different. Busier, colder. He sat down at his desk, but instead of opening his laptop, he opened a blank notepad. He wrote 2 words at the top of the page. Lily. Options. Below it, he started listing people he trusted. The company's in-house legal counsel, who had quietly helped a junior employee get out of a predatory contract last year. A security consultant who specialized in personal risk, not just corporate assets. A local non-profit he had donated to that supported people trying to leave controlling situations. He circled each name, connecting them with lines, building an invisible web around a woman who had spent years feeling like she had none. But he stopped himself before picking up the phone. He could gather information. He could be ready. What he couldn't do was decide for her. At 9:50 that night, he checked his watch and stood up. The building had thinned out. Most staff had gone home. Only a few offices still glowed with late-light work. He took the back route down to the ground level, avoiding the main lobby. The hum of the day had faded into a quieter, more distant sound. Near the loading bay, the air smelled faintly of cardboard and rain. The service stairwell door was slightly ajar, held open by a small wedge of folded cardboard at the bottom. He stepped inside. Dim, industrial lights cast a soft glow over the concrete steps. At the first landing, he saw her. Lily sat on the steps with her back against the wall, knees drawn up, hands clasped loosely around them. Her cleaning cart was parked just outside the stairwell door, secured with a simple chain. She looked up as he entered. "You're on time," she said. "I couldn't risk you deciding I imagined you and heading off to invent a new app instead," he said. A faint smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. "Sit," she said, nodding to the step below hers. He did. The concrete was cool through his trousers, the stairwell echoing every little sound, the buzz of the light, the distant rumble of a truck outside, the soft rustle of fabric when she shifted. "This feels like detention," he said, glancing around. "Only if you did something wrong," she replied. He tilted his head, looking up at her. "I might have," he said. She rested her chin on her knees. "We both did," she said, "but surviving isn't a crime. Tell that to the part of me that still thinks I should have gone to your house that night and dragged you to that bus with me," he said. She huffed softly. "You would have gotten yourself hurt," she said. and I would have resented you for making choices for me. You didn't deserve that." The honesty of it was like a slow exhale. "Maybe," he said, "but I still wish I'd tried harder." "Not everything can be saved," she said. "Sometimes all you can do is save what's left and try not to lose that too." He looked at her, at the way the stairwell light caught on the tired lines of her face and the stubborn set of her jaw. "What's left now, Lily?" he asked. "Of you?" She thought about it for a long moment, eyes drifting to the worn edge of the step. "I'm not the girl who waited under that tree anymore," she said. "I'm not the scared 16-year-old at the bus station either. I'm what's left after every decision I made and every one that was made for me." She gave a small, wry smile. "But I still hum when I draw. I still can't drink coffee without too much sugar. And I still think about that promise you made, even when I tell myself I shouldn't." He swallowed. "The promise that I'd come back for you?" She nodded. "I spent years telling myself it was just something kids say," she said. "It made it easier to accept that the world had moved on. But then I'd see your face on a magazine cover or in some interview on a waiting room TV, and I'd hear that promise again in my head." "You saw those?" he asked, surprised. "Hard to miss," she said. "You were everywhere for a while. Local boy makes good, from small town to tech empire. The kind of headlines you'd have hated as a teenager." He chuckled softly. "I still hate them," he said. "I used to sit in those waiting rooms and think, 'Good for him,'" she said. "And then I'd go back to whatever job I had and remind myself that we didn't exist in the same world anymore." Her voice softened on the last line. He shifted, turning a little more toward her. "We exist in the same stairwell right now," he said. "That has to count for something." She looked at him, really looked at him. "It does," she admitted. "It counts for more than I know what to do with. If you've watched this far, you probably feel that knot in your chest, the one that comes when the past and present collide and no one knows which way to step next. If this stairwell conversation hit you, drop a heart in the comments so more people who need a story like this can find it." Ethan rested his arms on his knees. "So," he said quietly, "here we are. Two very different lives, one very strange hallway, and a man outside this building who thinks he owns too much of yours." She flinched slightly at the reminder. "Why did you agree to meet me here?" he asked. "You could have just finished your shift and gone home." "I almost did," she said. "But then I thought about how angry my 16-year-old self would be if I walked away from the one person who ever said they'd come back for me, and actually did. She'd call me a coward." "Your 16-year-old self was a lot braver than she gave herself credit for," he said. "Maybe," she replied. "Maybe she was just desperate." "Sometimes those are the same thing," he said. She was quiet for a moment, then sighed. "You want to help me," she said. "I can see that. But you need to know something before you go any further." He tensed. "What?" "People like him," she said, meaning the man who controlled her housing. "They don't let go just because someone richer walks into the picture. In fact, that usually makes them hold on tighter. They see opportunity, not exit signs." "So you're worried about making it worse," he said. "I'm worried about what he might do if he thinks I've outgrown the box he put me in," she said. "To me, to my aunt, to anyone he can reach. You stepping in doesn't magically make that disappear. It might just change the shape of the fight." He appreciated that she didn't romanticize his involvement. "I can't promise it will be simple," he said, "but I can promise you won't be standing in that fight alone." She closed her eyes briefly. "That sounds nice," she said. "Dangerous, but nice." When she opened them again, there was a small, new resolve there. "Okay," she said quietly. "Here's what I'm willing to do. You can talk to someone, one person you trust, to find out what my options really are. Not promises, not fairy tales, just information. What happens if I cut ties with him? What happens if his paperwork shows up somewhere? What would it realistically take to walk away without dragging everyone down with me?" He nodded slowly. "I can do that," he said. "And I won't move a step further without telling you exactly what I find out, in plain language. No hidden terms. Plain language is non-negotiable," she said. "I've signed enough things I didn't fully understand." "You won't be signing anything," he said. "Not unless you want to, and not without someone explaining every line twice." She actually smiled at that. Twice, she repeated. You always did overdo things. Only when they mattered, he said. The stairwell light flickered once, then steadied. You should go home, he said gently. It's late. She nodded, then hesitated. You're not going to follow me, are you? She asked. The question wasn't accusatory, just wary. No, he said immediately. Not unless you ask me to, and I know you won't. You're learning, she said. She stood, dusted off the back of her uniform out of habit, then looked down at him. Be careful, Ethan, she said. With what? With whatever you're about to start for me, she replied. People like you don't usually get involved in stories like mine, without consequences. He stood too, meeting her gaze at almost the same height they had been as teenagers. Maybe it's about time I did, he said. She held his eyes for one long moment more, then nodded and stepped past him, pushing the door open. The faint rumble of the loading bay seeped back in as she slipped out, collecting her cart and disappearing into the quiet night outside. He remained in the stairwell a few seconds longer, listening to the fading sound of the cart wheels. Then he pulled out his phone and, for the first time, didn't call an investor, a partner, or a department head. He typed a message to one person. Need a confidential consult on a personal coercive control situation. Victim is an employee. No publicity. Can we talk tomorrow? He hit send. The reply came quicker than he expected. Of course, any person, any time. He slipped the phone back into his pocket, pushed open the stairwell door, and stepped into a different kind of future, one where the empire he had built might finally be used for the reason he had wanted it in the first place. Not just to prove he could succeed, but to make sure someone he cared about never had to live afraid again. If you're still here, you're invested in Ethan and Lily's journey. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you don't miss Part 3, where the man who thinks he owns Lily's life finally collides with the millionaire who never stopped loving her. And in the comments tell me this. Do you believe people like Lily truly get free in the end, or do you think some debts follow you forever? The next morning, the building felt different to Lily before she even stepped inside. The same glass doors, the same security desk, the same muted conversations and quick footsteps, but now there was a new layer to it all. Somewhere above her, the boy who once promised to come back for her was walking those hallways as a man who actually had. She signed in with the contractor's clipboard like she always did, scrawling her name in the middle of a list of others. Morning, Lily, the guard said, barely glancing up. Morning, she replied. Her voice sounded steady, even to her. Her stomach, however, felt like someone had quietly tied a knot there and pulled. She wheeled her cart toward the service elevator, the wheels squeaking in their familiar rhythm. Her hands moved on autopilot, check the supplies, secure the bottles, make sure the mop head was clean enough for the first run. Her mind, though, was still on the stairwell. On the way, Ethan's voice had softened when he said, "You're not a project." On the way, he had promised information, not rescue. Information she could walk toward or away from. When the elevator doors slid open, she stepped in and pressed the button for the lobby level. She wasn't scheduled to start there today. Her rotation had her on the second floor, but habit pulled her toward the place where everything had collided the day before. The lobby wasn't as busy yet. A few early executives crossing the floor, a delivery person arguing quietly with reception about a signature. She moved to the side, positioning her cart near a column and pretending to focus on adjusting the bottles. Her heart rate jumped as soon as she saw him. Ethan walked in through the main doors, a dark coat over his suit, a messenger bag slung over one shoulder instead of his usual briefcase. He looked less polished somehow, not messy, but more human, like he had slept, but not enough. He saw her almost immediately. Of course he did. She braced herself. He changed direction without hesitation, angling across the lobby toward her. "Good morning," he said as he came closer. He kept his voice low, his expression relaxed, as if they were just two co-workers exchanging a polite greeting. "Hi," she replied, fingers tightening on the cart handle. "Is this your area today?" he asked. "Just passing through," she said. "Second floor is mine this morning." "Seems unfair," he said lightly. "You do the hard work, and they give you none of the good views." She almost smiled. "You should see the state of the break rooms," she said. "Some views you can't unsee." The shared hint of humor helped the tension ease a little. "I spoke to someone last night," he said, keeping his tone conversational. "About options." Her stomach flipped. "Already? I didn't sleep much," he said simply. She looked away, watching a pair of employees scan their badges. "What did they say?" "They can meet in person," he said. "Today, if you want, or in a few days. No pressure." "Here?" she asked quickly. He shook his head. "No. Neutral ground. Somewhere you choose. And if you decide no, they'll never know your name." I made that part very clear. A long breath escaped her, one she hadn't realized she was holding. "What would they want from me?" she asked. "Your story," he said. "In as much or as little detail as you're willing to give. Paperwork, if you have any. They'd look at what this man actually holds over you and how real the danger is on paper, not just in your head." She frowned slightly. "In my head, I didn't mean that the way it sounded," he said quickly. "I know the danger is real. I meant, sometimes these people rely on fear more than actual power. They bluff big. The only way to know which is to let someone who understands the system read it properly." She nodded slowly. That made sense, even if it still felt risky. A supervisor's voice cut across the lobby. "Lily, you're on second this morning, right?" They had a spill near the elevators. "You're 10 minutes behind." She flinched, instinctively straightening. "Yes, sorry," she called back. "On my way." Ethan adjusted smoothly. "Can you take a short break later?" he asked quietly. 15 minutes. Just to hear what this person can offer. No decisions today. 15 minutes, she repeated. The idea of stepping out of her routine, of sitting in some anonymous office or cafe across from a stranger and talking about the worst parts of her life, made her skin prickle. But the image of her aunt's tired face flashed in her mind, the way the man's voice changed when he reminded her what he'd done for them. "Not during my shift," she said finally. "I can't just disappear. They'll notice." "After," he said. "Tonight." "I'm on until 10 again," she said. "Then I'll set it up for 10:30, he replied. "You pick where. Somewhere public enough to feel safe, quiet enough to talk." She hesitated. There was a cafe 3 blocks away she sometimes passed on her way home. Warm light, big windows, people with laptops and notebooks, not the kind of place he usually seemed to inhabit. "Corner cafe on Willow and 8th, she said. "They close late." His eyebrows lifted fractionally. "I know it," he said. "Good coffee. Terrible chairs." She almost smiled. "Maybe that keeps people from settling in too deep," she said. "Tonight, 10:30, he confirmed. "If you don't show, I'll take that as a no and step back. If you do, we talk," she finished. "We talk," he agreed. "Lily," her supervisor called again, closer now. "I'm going," she answered, louder. She turned back to Ethan, dropping her voice once more. "Please don't come up to the 2nd floor today," she said. "People already talk too much. I can't handle whispers on top of everything else." He nodded. "All right, I'll stay out of your way. For now." She gave him a quick, grateful look she tried to hide almost as soon as it appeared. Then she pushed her cart toward the elevators, the wheels squeaking a little faster this time. If you've ever had one of those days where a single conversation could change everything, but you still have to show up and do your job like nothing's different, drop "I've been there" in the comments. This is real life for a lot of people. On the 2nd floor, the world shrank back down to tasks. Vacuum this, wipe that, spray, scrub, dry. Lily let the rhythm take over, grateful for the way physical work sometimes drowned out thoughts. But every time she glanced at the clock, her pulse ticked up a notch. 9:30, 11, 1:15. She caught herself staring out a window between rooms, watching the traffic move below, imagining Ethan in some glass meeting room above, talking about numbers, while he waited to find out if she would actually show up tonight. It felt unfair, the amount of space he had in her head when she'd spent so many years deliberately pushing him out of it. In the early afternoon, as she emptied a trash bin into a larger bag, a voice behind her made her heart jump, even though it wasn't his. "Hey, Lily, you okay?" She turned to see Mariah from the night team, young, mid-20s, with a tired but kind face and a ponytail that never quite stayed in place. "Yeah," Lily said quickly. "Why?" "You're scrubbing the same spot for the third time," Mariah said gently. "Either that floor is blessed or your brain is someplace else." Lily looked down at the small patch of tile she'd been attacking. A faint, embarrassed laugh slipped out. "Long night," she said. "I think my thoughts forgot to clock out." Mariah leaned her shoulder against the wall, watching her. "I get that," she said. "You ever need to vent, I'm around. I might not have answers, but I've got ears." Lily appreciated the offer more than she could say, but the idea of explaining Ethan, the man, the promise, the mess, it felt too raw. "Thanks," she said. "I'll remember that." Mariah nodded and pushed her own cart down the hall. Lily went back to work, this time making sure she only scrubbed each spot once. By the end of her shift, her feet ached, her back throbbed, and her nerves felt like they'd been quietly humming all day. She signed out, slipped into her worn jacket, and stepped out into the cool night air. The city had that late evening buzz, cars sliding past, distant laughter from a bar, the glow of restaurant windows. Her usual route home would have taken her in the opposite direction of the cafe. Her legs almost turned that way automatically. It would be so easy to just go home, to pretend she hadn't agreed to anything, to tell herself that safe was better than uncertain, even if safe meant staying exactly where she was. She stopped at the curb, feeling the cool air on her face. 16-year-old Lily whispered in the back of her mind. "Coward." Adult Lily sighed. "Just 15 minutes, she murmured to herself. "Information, not rescue." She turned left, toward Willow and 8th. The cafe's windows glowed warm against the darker street. Inside, a few people sat with laptops, a couple whispered over shared dessert, and a lone man in a hoodie stirred his drink while scrolling his phone. Ethan sat at a small table near the back, his coat draped over the chair beside him, 2 cups already on the table. Notebooks were closed. No laptop. No paperwork. Just him. He looked up the moment she stepped in. Relief flickered across his face so quickly she almost missed it. He stood as she approached, an old habit of politeness. "You came," he said quietly. "You sound surprised," she replied. "I wasn't sure which voice would win," he said. "The one that wants answers, or the one that's kept you alive this long." She appreciated that he didn't call the cautious voice wrong. "Which coffee is mine?" she asked, nodding at the cups. "This one," he said, sliding one toward her. "Too much sugar." She raised an eyebrow. "You remembered." "Some things stick," he said. She wrapped her hands around the warm cup, letting the heat seep into her fingers before she even took a sip. A woman in her 50s approached the table, carrying a slim folder and a soft, professional smile. "Lily?" she asked gently. Lily's muscles tensed. Her first instinct was to retreat. "Yes," she said, forcing herself to stay still. "I'm Nadia," the woman said. "Nice to meet you. I work with situations where someone is using money, housing, or paperwork to keep a person stuck." Ethan asked if I'd be willing to explain what's possible. "No strings. No decisions today." Lily glanced at Ethan. He nodded once, as if to say, "This is the person." Nadia pulled out a chair. "Before we start," she said, "I need to say this clearly. Nothing we talk about tonight obligates you to do anything. You can walk away after this with more information and never contact me again. That is your choice. Okay?" Lily's shoulders dropped a fraction. "Okay," she said. "And if I decide I do want to do something, then we'll go at your pace," Nadia replied. "No surprise. I'll tell you what I think is realistic and what isn't. Sometimes the law is slow and messy, but knowing what's real and what's just fear talking can make a big difference." Lily swallowed. "Fear is pretty loud," she admitted. "Then let's give it something to compete with," Nadia said. "If you've ever sat across from someone and had to decide whether to finally tell the full, ugly truth or keep carrying it alone, you know how heavy this moment feels. Take a second to breathe with Lily. This is where a lot of real stories turn either toward freedom or deeper silence." Nadia didn't open the folder right away. Instead, she folded her hands on the table. "Why don't you tell me how you ended up connected to this man?" she said, using whatever words feel safest for you. We'll fill in the details later. Lily stared at the table for a moment, watching a ring of moisture form under her cup. Then she began. She talked about her aunt, about the debts, about the man who had paid one bill and then gradually acted like he'd bought a person. She explained the lease in his name, the contributions he demanded, the way he always seemed to know when she got extra hours. She kept her voice low, aware of the hum of the cafe around them. Nadia listened without interrupting, only occasionally asking a clarifying question. Does he ever threaten physical harm? No, he doesn't need to, Lily said. He just reminds me where my aunt lives and what's in my name. Has he ever shown you the paperwork he says is in your name? Some, Lily said. Not all. He waves things around and says, "You signed this," but half the time I don't remember seeing it before. The handwriting on the signature line looks shaky, like someone copied me with their wrong hand. Ethan's jaw tightened. Nadia nodded slowly. "Do you have any copies?" she asked. "A few," Lily replied. "I took pictures with my phone once when he wasn't looking. I know I shouldn't have, but that was smart," Nadia said gently. "Not wrong. Smart. Do you still have them?" "Yes." "May I see?" Lily glanced at Ethan again. His expression was open, steady. She pulled out her phone with slightly shaking hands, scrolled to a hidden album, and laid it on the table for Nadia to examine. Nadia studied each image carefully, occasionally leaning closer. After a few minutes, she sat back. "Okay," she said. "Here's what I can tell you, even without seeing the originals. I won't sugarcoat anything, but I also won't make it sound worse than it is." Lily braced herself. "Some of these documents are real agreements," Nadia said. "Utility accounts, informal loan notes. They could cause inconvenience if he decided to be cruel, but they're not prison walls. They're strings, not chains." "Strings still pull," Lily murmured. "I know," Nadia said. "But some of these other pages." She tapped one of the pictures. "This one, for example. This looks forged. The signature doesn't match the others. The dates don't line up. There are gaps that any decent lawyer could challenge." Lily's heart thudded. "So he doesn't have as much as he says." "He has enough to scare you," Nadia said. "But in terms of legal power, he's bluffing bigger than his hand. If you chose to challenge this, he'd be on much shakier ground than you." Lily let out a breath that trembled. It didn't solve everything, but just hearing someone who understood the system say, "He's bluffing," loosened something tight inside her that had been knotted for years. "What about the lease?" she asked. "He's on the contract. If I leave, he could throw my aunt out." "Not overnight," Nadia said. "There are notice periods, processes. He counts on you not knowing that. We could talk to your aunt directly, figure out whether she wants to stay, move, or bring him into the light. Right now, he has power, because everything is happening in the shadows." Lily stared at the pictures on her phone as if they might rearrange themselves. "What would it look like?" she asked slowly. "If I decided to walk away?" "Messy," Nadia said honestly. "For a while. There would be conversations, maybe letters. He might yell, threaten, try to scare you back into place. But if we set it up correctly, he'd have fewer tools than he thinks, and you'd have more support than you've ever had." Lily's eyes stung. "You say we like it simple," she whispered. "It's not simple," Nadia said, "but it is possible, and you wouldn't be doing it alone." She glanced at Ethan. "He's offered to cover my fees," she added, turning back to Lily. "That doesn't give him control over what you choose. It just removes the money barrier." Lily looked at Ethan, startled. "You don't have to." "I know," he said quietly. "I want to." She swallowed. The room felt warmer suddenly, the air thicker. Too many possibilities crowded in at once. "Can I think about it?" she asked. "Of course," Nadia said. "I'll leave you with my card. No pressure. If you decide you want to move forward, call or text. If not, you can tear it up. No hard feelings." She slid a simple white card across the table, just a name, a number, and a small line, "Coercive Control and Financial Safety Advocate." Lily picked it up, the thin rectangle of cardstock feeling heavier than it looked. Nadia stood. "I'll give you two some space," she said. "Remember, information is not obligation. Whatever you choose, It's your life. She walked away, leaving them in a bubble of quiet near the back of the cafe. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Lily turned the card over between her fingers, back and forth, back and forth. "You okay?" Ethan asked finally. She laughed softly, the sound frayed around the edges. "No," she said, "but not in the way I expected." "What did you expect?" "To feel trapped," she said. "Instead I feel dizzy, like someone opened a door I didn't know was there, and now I can't decide whether to step through or slam it shut." He nodded. "I get that," he said. She studied him. "Do you?" "Not in the same way," he admitted. "But I know what it's like to suddenly realize the life you've been living isn't the only version you could have had. It's a lot." She smiled faintly. "Must be nice to realize your other versions involve less work, not more cleaning jobs," she said. "It's not always about money," he replied. "Sometimes it's about who you are when you stop running." Her eyes softened, but she looked away. "Don't make me into a metaphor," she said quietly. "I'm just tired." "You're not a metaphor," he said. "You're a person I care about. That's all." She took a sip of her coffee. It had gone lukewarm, but the sugar still settled on her tongue. "Why didn't you ever?" she began, then stopped. "Ever what?" "Get married. Move on. Find someone who wasn't carrying all this," she said, gesturing vaguely to herself. He considered lying. "He didn't. I dated," he said. "Some of it was real. Some of it was distraction. But every time it looked like something might turn into a life, I pulled back." "Why?" He hesitated, then shrugged one shoulder. "Because I never stopped feeling like my story with you was unfinished," he said simply. Her breath hitched. "That's not fair to them," she said. "It wasn't," he agreed. "I'm not proud of it, but it's the truth." She stared at him for a long moment. "You held on to a promise a kid made under a tree," she said. "Yes," he said. "And then you grew up, and life tore everything apart, and I built something new on top of the rubble. But the promise was still there, buried, but not gone." Her eyes glistened. "You shouldn't have waited," she whispered. "Maybe not," he said. "But I did." Silence settled again, thicker this time. If you're still watching, you can feel it, the space between who they were and who they are now, and the question of whether love can cross that gap without breaking. If you believe some connections never truly die, let me know in the comments with the words, "second chances." Lily set the cup down carefully. "I don't know what I'm going to do," she said. "About him, about my aunt, about any of this. You don't have to know tonight," he said. "But whatever you choose, I want you to know one thing." "What?" "You're not alone anymore," he said quietly. "Even if you decide not to use Nadia, even if you decide this is too much, you're still not alone." Tears finally slipped free, tracing slow lines down her cheeks. She didn't hide them this time. "I don't remember the last time someone said that and meant it," she whispered. "I mean it," he said. She believed him. That, more than anything, scared her. Because once you believe someone means it, losing them hurts more. She wiped her cheeks with the back of her hand and let out a shaky breath. "Okay," she said, "one step at a time. Tonight I go home. Tomorrow I go to work. After that, maybe I'll call her." She tapped the card lightly on the table. "Maybe," he echoed. They sat there a while longer, not talking much, just sharing space for the first time in years without the weight of unsaid words pressing quite as hard. When she finally stood to leave, he didn't offer to walk her home. He wanted to. Every protective instinct screamed to, but he remembered her warning about being watched, about how the man in her life reacted to changes. "Text me when you get home," he said instead. She hesitated. "I don't." "Not your address," he said quickly. "Just, I'm home. So I know you got there safe." She considered, then nodded. "Okay," she said. "Just this once." She slipped the card into her pocket, zipped up her jacket, and walked out into the night. A few minutes later, as he sat there staring at his untouched second coffee, his phone buzzed. One simple message. Home. No punctuation, no name. But it was enough to make the tightness in his chest ease. He typed back, "Good. Sleep if you can." One step at a time, he hovered over the send button, then deleted the last line. Too much. He sent just one word. Good. Then he leaned back in his chair and let himself feel something he had not felt in years. Hope.